Guys, hope everyone's well. It's your boy MKS back here with another video. Just made one about Serie A daily. So I thought I'd make the Celtic version. As I talked before, I'm a big fan of Italian football, but I'm also a big fan of Celtic, which is probably my favourite British team, or my favourite team outside of the Mediterranean, or something like that anyway, or at least one of them. And I hope for them to become the most successful club in Scotland. And I've seen videos about Celtic having fans all around the world, and I thought it'd be great if they could have even more fans around the world, and that it's like a family event environment. And I think every country, although Celtic is in Glasgow, Scotland, in the UK, Britain, or whatever, it's got Irish roots, and I think it's quite an anti-imperialist club, really, because Ireland was colonised by Britain, and many of the Irish were treated bad, including in Glasgow. So I think migrants definitely should support Celtic, in my opinion, and also people who are anti-imperialists, and Rangers, which is rivals, are more pro-British, pro-Union, and all that sort of stuff. So I think people from countries that were colonised by Britain, I definitely think, even though it's in Britain, I think they should, in my opinion, should support Celtic. Certainly out of all the Scottish teams, anyway. As I say, keep referring back to it being my opinion. But yeah, I'd love to have Celtic having fans all over, like in India, China, Japan. I think there already is a fan base, because we used to have, I say we as a fan, we used to have a Japanese player, Nakamura, I nearly forgot his name there, sorry. Shinzuki Nakamura who used to play for Celtic, was a great player. And so there's already a fan base in Japan. And there used to be a player from India called Mohammed Salim, I think it was, ages ago, one of the first players, probably the first player from India to play outside of India. And I think he only had a couple of games for Celtic, but someone was actually from an Indian channel was actually talking about, someone from a channel which supports Indian football or celebrates Indian football, was talking about how was saying hashtag India loves Celtic, because I think Celtic actually tried to do a lot to help, because he helped Mohammed Salim, because he couldn't afford football boots back then. I think India was a very poor country, so I think most people probably couldn't afford things like football boots and things like that. And unfortunately, even today, there's many people who couldn't afford things like football boots. So I think it'd be great to have for Celtic, and as I say, Italian clubs as well, having football academies, and possibly helping some of the people there to get their own training and football boots, which would also be good for charity, but it would perhaps in the longer term hopefully benefit the club as well, because they could be future players, and India, you never know, could produce great players in the future. I think, one, it's got a big population. I think Indians are more talented in football than people think, but I think lack of opportunity has dented their opportunity. But so yeah, I think that connection hopefully would encourage a lot of people from India to support Celtic, and I hope people from China as well, and the US. I think people with Irish blood, hopefully. I mean, I think they already do. Well, I know they already do. Like the people around the world, especially in America and Australia and places like that, with an Irish connection, there's a large. They normally support Celtic, nearly always. Really, the ones who are into football support Celtic anyway, in places like Philadelphia, and I think there's in places like that. And there's been many YouTube videos about how they support the club, for all the way from America and Australia and places like that. So it's really great, I think. But I hope to encourage more people to find out about Celtic, and to learn about the history of Celtic, the charitable history of Celtic and all that. There's plenty of great documentaries, I think, about Celtic and its history, and possibly I could share some in these videos, like in the links, or even some of the things I've read and heard, like how it was founded by although I'm not Catholic, but it was founded by a Catholic Maoist or whatever they're called, priest or whatever. And there was a lot of poverty in the east end of Glasgow where people were discriminated against because they were of Irish descent and Catholic. And during the recession, they couldn't get jobs. And Celtic was founded to actually help them by giving everyone a football and a bar of soap and things like that, which they really needed back then. So the club's founding charity, I think, as far as I'm aware, it does a lot of work for charity around the world. Unfortunately, I think they stopped doing a lot of their overseas stuff from what I've heard. But I think it'd be great if they could get back into that sort of stuff that they did for countries like Kenya and Malawi. Coincidentally, countries where I have a slight connection to from people I know on Facebook, especially Kenya. Not so much Malawi, but I do know 1 or 2 people from there. But yeah, I think it'd be great if they do that charity work, possibly even run their own football academies. I know they set up like Kibera Celtic in Kibera, which is the biggest slum. I think it's the biggest slum in Africa, and it's in Kenya. So I think they've done some great work, and I think they should, in my opinion, they should go back to doing a lot of the overseas stuff, which hopefully will benefit the club in the long term. So yeah, I'm hoping to be like an ambassador for the club. Not officially perhaps, but maybe even I could in the future meet up with people from the club and become like a global ambassador or something like that, and talk about how to encourage more people from Africa and Asia and the Americas and around the world to support Brazil and support Celtic. And I know Celtic already do have fans from Brazil, Argentina, as I say, America. I'm sure there are a few at least in India. But yeah, I'd love Celtic to be as big as well supported as many of the teams in the Premiership, like Liverpool or even Man United or clubs like that. Obviously, that's a huge ambition, but if people had Celtic as like their second club, or in many cases at least, if not their first, then I think that'd be cool. But yeah, so I'd love to hear ideas and suggestions about how we can get more people to find out about Celtic and perhaps support the club and that kind of thing. And I think I'd love to encourage as many people as I say from India, China, US, all over the Americas, all over Asia, and Africa, and Australasia, supporting, and all around the world, really, even Europe. But these markets are really big. Like India is a huge market potentially for Celtic, and Asia generally, and even Africa. Especially people in those countries are really passionate about football as well, as they are around the world, I'm sure. And also the charitable side, like Celtic, I'd love to see them do more, go back into supporting people in Kenya and around the world, and setting up their own academies, maybe even in parts of Brazil and places like that, and Argentina and places like that, because it could be an investment that Celtic pays in the short term, but perhaps gains from in the longer term, because those big football loving countries create great talent, but especially with more opportunities, like maybe even I talked before about I love Celtic to be tax exempt, but maybe even get some tax deals for the charity work. But also it's an investment, because as you're investing in young players who can go and play for the club. So we could have more, as I say as a fan, you have more players from Argentina and Brazil, Italy, Germany, and other such countries that have big footballing nations, and as I say, even from Africa and Asia, who might break onto the scene and surprise a few people. Yeah, as ever, I'd love to hear what you think about this video. Covered quite a few ideas, but I think I'm running out of ideas at the moment. But yeah, what do you think about could Celtic perhaps write it off their tax or something? Could they invest in football academies, and should they? And is it a good investment for the club? But also, could it also be a mutual benefit for the club and the countries which they help? As I say, buying academies, setting up academies, and helping them with like football boots, footballs, and other such training material, which could help them to get into football. And again, in the future, maybe play for play for Celtic. I think I'll wrap this up. Love to hear what you think as ever. Peace on.